get them confused. They go thinking they're doing the Falls Trailhead, and what they do is en route to the Falls Trailhead, they run into the Truck Trailhead thinking that's the correct trailhead, and they have trouble locating the falls. You can get to the falls from Tanaja Truck Trail, but it's a much longer hike and involves a little bit more planning and stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna try to clarify that little issue. So right now we're coming up on the Tanaja Truck Trailhead. From Tanaja Truck Trail, you can loop, you can kind of modify your hike. Put the links to the map to the Tanaja Truck Trail in the description. But I think it's roughly like 7 to 9 miles hike from Tanaja Truck Trail to the falls. Okay, I just wanted to clarify a few things because I noticed as I'm editing the video, I'm using Tanaja Trailhead and Tanaja Truck Trailhead interchangeably. I don't want that to cause confusion. Basically, those are the same exact trailheads. The trails are technically different, but I sort of consider them the same. So here on this map, I'm using All Trails map website, by the way. It's very helpful. Anyway, so this is Tanaja Trail. You look over here, 4.7 miles. Okay, gives you the trail length. This is the trailhead, Tanaja Trailhead. Okay, this is the same trailhead as Tanaja Truck Trail. The reason I pretty much consider them the same, because if you do this hike and you go from here all the way to here, that's the 4.7 miles. Well, unless you have a second vehicle parked there to drive out of there, you're going to go ahead and have to complete this route right here to get back to your original starting point. Now, by completing this route here, that technically makes it Tanaja Truck Trail. So click on this link. Now it's Tanaja Truck Trail. So basically, it's the same exact route, but now it includes this. And this is a roadway. It's a skinny roadway that you see in the video. And it's a lot of incline, and there's very, very little shade coverage. So if you're doing this roadway in the heat, it's a tough stretch. So be prepared for that. Now, what we're looking for in this video is Tanaja Falls, which is up here. So I'll show you that. This is the trailhead we're looking for. So I'm just trying to draw the distinction between the Tanaja Truck Trail, Tanaja Trailhead, and then Tanaja Falls, which is actually up here. And I'll go back and forth so you get a difference. So there's many routes you can play with in this area. You'll see there's a route that goes all the way up to here. You know, you could start at Tanaja Trailhead, go all the way to Fisherman's Camp, and go all the way up to the falls. But I would study maps and study the area before doing something that big. If you're a beginner, I wouldn't recommend that right out the gate. But yeah, anyway, so we're looking for the falls. So here's the falls. It's just the 1.5 mile hike, see here, to the falls here. So I just wanted to clear that up a little bit. So just to give you guys a look, when you're en route to Tanaja Falls, you're going to be passing Tanaja Trailhead. Just to give you a little look over here. So this is Tanaja Trailhead. This is not your destination if you're trying to go to the falls. The 1.5 mile trip to the falls anyway. You can get to the falls from here, but it's about, like I said, 7 miles or something like that. And the way back, if you have to take the road back, it's a really tough trip back. So I definitely wouldn't do it in the heat. So we'll continue on to the Tanaja Falls. Tanaja Trailhead, and I'm en route to Tenaja Falls Trailhead. So you got to continue down this windy road. It seems like a good 30 minutes driving. And you got to be kind of careful because of the blind corners, and you will have cars coming the opposite direction. So you got to approach each curve cautiously. And sometimes it's a tight squeeze if there's a vehicle in a narrow section of the road. You guys got to squeeze to each end of the road, so it can be tricky. If you're able to take your smaller vehicle, I'd recommend that. Also beware, this road has many holes, pretty big potholes, so be mindful of that. Still continuing the drive to Tanaja Falls. It's a pretty nice drive. It's just really sketchy. You gotta go slow. But pretty nice views. So part of the way to when you're coming from passing Tanaja Trailhead en route to the falls, you're gonna pass Fisherman's Camp Trailhead. Literally only one vehicle looks like it get parked there. Don't think this is your trailhead. This is the Fisherman Camp Trailhead. So you gotta still continue on. Alright, so here we are. This is the Tenaja Falls Trailhead. Here's you have the map of the area, San Mateo Canyon Wilderness. Yeah. Also, one thing to keep in mind, when you come to Tanaja, you will not have cell signal. Also, your GPS. So when you come out here, your GPS will work. It'll get you here to the trailhead. But when you leave is when it gets tricky, because when you punch your home address, well, you don't have a signal. So it doesn't register the new address. Yes, your GPS will work on the way here typically because you have signal and it preloads the data. So kind of be prepared for that. Also, here's a sign-in box. You just sign your name here and then we'll continue on. Just to give you an idea of what the sign-in sheet looks like, it's really simple. It's just the date, your name, your zip code, the destination. We're going to the falls, so we'll just put falls. The number of people in your group. So not each person has to sign in. One person could sign, and if there's 4 people, you just put 4 people in your group. Did you contact the Forest Service before a visit? No, did not. You're not required to. If you are camping, they do disperse camping, but that requires a permit. You have to set up with the Ranger District. I think it's the Trabucco Ranger Station for this area. And if you want to set up a camping trip. Yeah. All right, so here we go. So right as you begin your hike, just after the sign in, you're already going to see water. Usually when there's rain, this is flowing a little bit better. It's the beginning of September. It's been hot all through August. We've had like no rain, so it's going to be pretty unimpressive if the falls are even there at all. I'm not even sure what to expect, but I don't expect much. But obviously, if you go after some good rains, it's going to be a lot more appealing. And yeah, there's some rocks. You know, an elderly person might have trouble, so a little bit of tricky areas. It's not too bad. So this is where I think some people might get confused. Here we're at the little creek. Some people end up going right and following it up because there's a trail that'll kind of parallel the creek bed and go way off that way. What you want to do is you need to cross over. You're going to see these rocks. It's pretty dry right now. Typically it's a lot more water and it's a little bit trickier to get across. But yeah, you need to get across the water. If you don't cross the water like within the first 5 minutes of beginning your hike, you know, you might be off path, so be mindful of that. Yeah, so I just crossed a little creek bed and I'll go this way. So this hike is only 1.5 miles total. So literally just 3/4 of a mile to make it to the falls. So it's a really easy hike. You know, I would say beginners can do it, but I don't know about like elderly, or you have to be a little bit agile. I mean, as you saw, just climbing a little bit. And there's some pretty decent incline, and it's a pretty rocky in some areas. But overall, I think it's a really easy hike. It's a good starter hike if you're new to hiking. So shortly after crossing the creek bed, kind of towards the base of this hill, and you see these trees over here, you'll see like a Y intersection. You can go either left or right. They kind of curve back into the same thing. Basically, this is the trail, and this just goes through these trees and then cuts left into the same trail. But we'll go ahead and go through these trees because it's kind of cool. Yeah, so literally you can, from the trailhead, you can be to this spot in, I'd say about 10 minutes of just hiking, unless you're stopping and taking pictures. You'll see like a little makeshift fireplace, looks like somebody built. They do not allow fires in here, strictly prohibited. If you do get a permit and do camping, you could only do the like stoves, camping stoves, propane, stuff like that. So unfortunately you cannot have campfires. So here we'll continue left and get back on the trail towards the falls. You can see it's fairly rocky. Trekking poles would have been pretty handy. One thing you gotta worry about is there's some pretty gnarly trenches. This is a good, probably like 8 feet deep. If your kids or your dog runs up ahead, they're breaking a leg if they fall in there. And these trenches parallel the road and sort of narrow the trail in certain areas and make it tricky. So I know this is only 1.5 miles, but in some areas it's a tough 1.5 miles, you know. So we're kind of at the first, I guess, lookout point. The falls is over here, just over the bushes, those rocks over there. One thing I forgot to mention is this trail is actually pretty exposed. So again, even though it's only 1.5 miles total, do not underestimate it and do not do this when it's hot, because you'll be way out there with no like shade coverage. There's very minimal shade. The beginning of the trail where those trees are is a little deceptive for the rest of the trail. It's not much shade coverage. So I would do it really early in the morning. I began this trip about 7 o'clock. But yeah, some nice views. We're parked about right there. There's a vehicle that's down there you could see. Mine's sort of hidden from the bushes. But yeah, I mean, it's a tough 1.5 miles. There's a vehicle there. Yeah, it looks like the fall's actually pretty dry. Yeah, it's like bone dry. We're not there yet. We got quite a ways to go, but you could definitely see the fall from here, obviously. But it looks dry. It's not typically how it looks. It's a lot more neat after some good rains. So don't be discouraged. It's usually a lot much cooler than this. And definitely some pretty killer views. Almost there. I'm just gonna continue up the trail. It goes right along here, and then boom, right at the falls. Or where the falls are supposed to be. This is pretty much like the last lookout point before we reach the falls. Looks pretty cool with that the fog. Reminds me of like Brazil or something. I don't know why. So we reached the falls. Looks like there's some water kind of stagnant here. It's not really flowing, which is what I expected. Last time I was here, there was some water flowing pretty decently, but we haven't had any rain. In fact, it's been super hot. Yeah, it's pretty dry. It's a lot more impressive when there's the water flowing. It's still cool though. So this is like the top part of Tenaja Falls. That's the trail it came from. Just walk through there. Let's go take a look at the deep part. Yeah, you can see the little pool down there. It's pretty stagnant. When it's not flowing very well, the water doesn't look as clean. I like it. Pretty freaking cool, man. Like a little pool down there. People will jump in sometimes. But really the hike, I mean, and the views, it's still really cool, even when it's dry. So don't be lazy. Don't not come out just because it's dry. All right, so you got the idea. This is Tenaja Falls. Again, it usually looks a lot more cooler than this with when the water's flowing. And if you're feeling froggy, the trail, you could actually continue the trail up that way, past the falls. But from here, straight on back, it's 3/4 to a mile back to their car. Total, 1.5 miles. So, all right, I'm gonna head back. One thing I think I should mention, when you research the Tanaja area, there's a lot of mention of like poisonous oak or some type of poisonous plants. I'm not too familiar with what's poisonous, poison ivy, all that stuff. I just treat all the plants like they're poisonous. Try not to rub against as few, or try to rub against as few plants as possible. Treat them all like the poisonous, or look it up. There's some stuff on the internet you can print out to identify the plants. I sort of studied one once, but then when I came out on the trail, every other plant looked like the damn plant. I couldn't really distinguish them. So you have to like carry it with you, unless you're a botanist. Okay, I just left out of the falls area. Started to head back down. I've only been hiking for like 5 minutes maybe. What I decided to do is I'm gonna go ahead and just speed up the hike on the video, and you can kind of get a rough idea what you'll encounter if you wanted to see basically the whole hike back. So maybe that'll be a little bit helpful to whoever's trying to map out the area or get an idea of the terrain. So here we go. All right, so bear with me. Because of the speed up, I know the footage is going to get pretty shaky and rather annoying. I'm just trying to give a person who's not familiar with the area the opportunity to actually see the terrain. So again, I apologize for this shaky footage. Again, I apologize for the shaky footage, especially on this part crossing. It's just hard to stabilize the camera when you're crossing a creek bed with the rocks. Trying not to slip and break an ankle, as I almost do here. I don't know if you guys caught that, but I almost ate shit. And we made it. That's it. From the time I began to speed up in real time, that was about 11 minutes, 30 seconds ago. That wasn't the whole way back, but pretty much a majority of it. So it might give you a rough idea of the terrain. So yeah, again, it's only a 1.5 mile hike, but it's not the same as going like a 1.5 mile jog on the sidewalk. You know, the way there is a little tougher for a beginner. And again, I'd recommend doing it pretty early. Check the weather that day. If it's getting warm, I wouldn't do it. So, all right. Thanks for watching.